All right, guys, let's talk about building security real fast. So look at the door behind me. What is wrong with this door? We got a door latch, we got some hinges, we got a window. What would you do to break into this building? All right, well, some guys would break the window out and climb through the window if they were going to break in, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put a security film over the window, that way people can't see in. Then we're going to put plywood over top of that and probably put about 20 or so screws into it. That way it's real strong, that way it's not easy for somebody to kick out. And you want to use structural screws. Make sure you use screws and not nails, because nails, you can kick them out a little bit easier than screws. Screws, they're really locked in there, so you definitely want to use screws. This door latch here is pretty good. You can't get at it with bolt cutters, but we're going to put a padlock on here. And the padlock, we're going to use carriage bolts that go all the way through the rough opening and the door itself. That way somebody can't get in there with a pry bar and pry the padlock off, okay? That's important. Next thing that's important is the hinges. These hinges are fully exposed. See the screws? Anybody can just back these screws out and break right into this door. This is a joke. These hinges are an absolute joke. So what we need is we need real hinges. Okay, so I'm going to put commercial grade hinges on here that are steel. The hinges are going to be between the rough opening and the door itself. That way the screws are not accessible to any thief that wants to come along with a $2 screwdriver and back the screws out in about 10 minutes and break into the shed. You can literally break into this shed with a screw gun in under 2 minutes, or you could break into this shed with a screwdriver in 10 minutes. Okay, that's pretty bad. All right, for a $3,000 shed that they would cheap out like this. But this is the biggest security vulnerability in this shed, so we're definitely going to be replacing these hinges. But ultimately, guys, when you do a shed or mounting shed or anything like that, you want to have deterrence. Security cameras is a great deterrent. I'm not going to go into security cameras on this video. I'm not going to show you guys where I'm putting security cameras. I am installing security cameras. Another option is an alarm system. That way, if somebody does break in, it can trigger an alarm and trigger a police respond. You can go with ADT, you can go with Brinks. I think there's a do-it-yourself system called Simply Safe you guys could consider. But there's a lot of different things that's out there and stuff on the market. So it's all about what you guys want, how much money you want to spend and stuff. I'm just getting started here with this mining shed, so I'm not going to be putting a whole lot of money into security. But once I really grow my operation, I'm going to have the alarm system, the whole 9 yards and stuff. But most importantly, the best thing to do is insurance. As you guys noticed, I anchored this building down earlier in the video. That's important for insurance. I don't think I mentioned that before, but if I put insurance on this building, all the contents will be insured, everything like that will be insured. But what you guys want to do, and this is very important, is you guys want to create a ledger. So when you build your mining rigs, document all your computer parts and components, document the serial numbers and the price you paid. That will tell you what your return on investment is. But most importantly, you want those serial numbers, because if there is a theft, you got to be able to report what was stolen. And what does the police want? They want serial numbers. If you can give the police the serial numbers, they can put it into the database. And then if it shows up on eBay, it shows up at a pawn shop, it shows up on Facebook, you might be lucky enough and get your stuff back, and the police might be able to make an arrest. But if you don't document them serial numbers, you're going to get screwed. And that ultimately is what most guys are not doing right now, is they are not documenting serial numbers. But anyways, let's go ahead and break into this building. Building's locked up. So let's see how long it's going to take me to break into this shed. Things are hot. They're burning. These screws are hot. That didn't take too long now, did it? So there's nothing holding this door. I reach in here for a pry bar. This door's coming down. So let's see. Can I actually get into this building? There we go. Making some progress. All right, guys, as you can tell, I took that door off like it was nothing. About 8 screws I was in. And that's the thing about these doors. They're a joke. These hinges were a joke. It was catching here. I pulled on the handle a little bit, wobbled it loose, popped right off. So what we're going to do is we're going to install this right here. These are commercial grades. These are heavy duty. These things are probably about $10, $15 a piece. Okay, you can get them with ball bearings in them, so that way you got a nice smooth door. I'm going to put them in here just like this right here, have them stick out a little bit. And that right there is going to give me a lot of added security to this building. It's going to make it a lot harder for somebody to break into. So that's going to be one of those big security upgrades. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to install a padlock. So this right here is the padlock that we're going to be installing, and we're going to be using carriage bolts like this right here. So these are carriage bolts, and they're going to go all the way through the basically, more or less, they're going to go straight through here, all the way through the rough opening and out the back, and we're going to bolt it in place. I'm going to use a master lock, which master locks are a joke, but this is probably the most expensive master lock they had at Lowe's. It was like 30 bucks. That's what we're going to be using. But as far as the padlock goes, we're going to be putting this bad boy on, which this is pretty heavy steel here. This is pretty much the most expensive latch I could find. That's going to go right up here on the side of the building or something like that. And you're not going to pry this thing off with carriage bolts and stuff in it. I'm sorry, but this thing's going to be pretty tough. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this all put together and get the door back on the hinges and stuff so we can lock this building up and make it more secure. All right, guys, I just took the hinges out, redid them again. As you can see, they fold, open and close. I've got them lined up now so that this part is actually between the opening. I was going to move them up further, but I was like, I'm just going to line them up here just to see how that works. And I did both of them that way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the door up, reinstall it again, see how that works. And if that don't work, then this is going to have to come further, even further. And more than likely, this strip will have to be fully cut off. So let's go ahead and try to put this door up just to see how this works. All right, guys, the door is now shutting, so we're on the right track. These hinges are installed properly on the door, so I want to have the hinges lined up within that channel. However, as you can see, it's sticking out too far, which means all I got to do is move the hinges further in on the inside of the building, and it should go open nice and smoothly. But as you can see, the door, it swings perfectly right now. But where I got these hinges, what I was trying to do is line this up right here with this back board here. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to line this up further in, so that way when the door shuts, it's bumping right there in that groove. So what's happening is when I pull the door to, let me pull it shut here, you guys can see, it's closing, but that board, the hinge is pushing it outward, okay? So I'll have to take this thing back off, do it one more time, hopefully 3 times a charm. I'm going to tell you guys a little secret in life. If somebody ever asks you, hey, can you come over and help me hang a door? Say no. This door is really starting to piss me off. All right, guys, so after dicking around with this door for about 2 hours, I finally figured out what we have to do to fix it. Okay, so right now, the door itself, it opens nice and smoothly. Okay, it opens like it should. So how did I get it this way? Okay, that's the question. So what I did was I notched it like we originally started with, and then I put the hinges, I figured out by having the hinges flush with the front of the building, that's what you wanted. You want it flush at the top and the bottom. Now this trim board that runs down through here, this white trim board, it basically ended up getting in my way. So what I did is I pried it off and got the door open and closing smoothly, so it was flush with that, okay? Now this piece of plywood, the sheeting that's actually on the building here between the rough opening and this trim board, what I did was I came in, cut it down through there for 45, and I actually used my oscillating tool for that, but I realized after I'd done it, it would have made more sense to just take the trim board here off altogether to begin with, and I never took that off. So take your trim board off, put your hinges flush, you know, with the front of the door, okay, so your hinges are flush, that's what you want, and then you're going to basically want to measure using this trim board here. You want to measure, you might want to get a spacer or something. We want to measure basically the width of the hinge, okay? So from the front to the back, you want to measure that width, and then you're going to measure from the trim board in and make yourself a mark. Now, I didn't do that. I was basically tinkering with it, but that would actually be the easiest way to do it. And then when you go to basically put the door in, you just shim the door up, put it in place, and you line that hinge up with your mark, screw it in, do the same at the bottom, and then the door should open and close just fine. Then you take your trim board, you stick it on here and screw it into place. But I had a hell of a time with this, guys. I mean, this is I hate messing with doors. I really do, because it's always a pain to get them working. I mean, there's some guys that just throw doors on no problem. It's super easy for them, but this was a job right here. But the door itself, it's opening nice and smooth. I don't have any issues with it, and it's secure. That's what we want. We want a nice, secure door. Hinges, the screws here, they are not accessible. Somebody can't just come in here with a screw gun, back these screws out. So this door is going to be secure. Now we got to put our padlock and stuff on it over here, and we'll have this all secured up. Now, as far as the way this looks, I've got it all messed up and everything in here. So I'm going to come through with some silicone, fill in these holes and all this mess that I've made on the door. And I'm just going to take some white paint. I got some exterior paint. I'll just paint it, fix it up. This will look good. You'll never know. All right, guys, we just updated the security on the building. I'm going to leave this handle here because this is a good handle. I can unlock this or I can lock it. So it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to keep this locked. And what the benefit of having this locked is if somebody tries to come at my padlock up here with bolt cutters and cut it, they're still going to have to deal with this handle down here. So you got two locks at it. This is harder to cut at because the locking mechanism is on the inside of the building. So it's more difficult to cut one of these or break into these. Then you got the padlock up here, which is something else they got to deal with. Now, as far as the hinges goes, you guys seen earlier, I just backed the screws out the hinges. We got our hinges installed. Okay, they're flush mount with the side of the building, which means nobody can get on. They can't back the screws out. Makes it a lot more difficult for somebody who's trying to break in that way. So that's a step in the right direction. We got a master lock up here. Go ahead and open this here up for you guys. Okay, so this is a master lock. And the thing about master locks is these are cheap garbage locks, but I can go buy a nice high dollar lock for $100. Okay, and the fact of the matter is somebody just come along, take a pair of bolt cutters and snap it in two. I mean, that's the reality of the matter. The only benefit is making them pick resistant. That might be the only real benefit is the upgrade. But the thing is, when you put a lock like this on, you want to put carriage bolts in. That way you're drilling all the way through the building. There's carriage bolts in there. That way somebody can't get at it. They can't cut them off and stuff. But when this bar is closed like this, I mean, they can't access the screws or anything. The thing is, if they go in with a pry bar, they can try to pry it open. So put one of these on your building, close it, get yourself a nice padlock. I'm using a cheap one, which is a master lock. I'm not putting but a couple $1,000s worth of hardware in here right now until the building gets insurance and all that good stuff on it. But once I get the building up and running and I really start putting some serious more money into it, this lock will get upgraded. I will probably put in a probably get at least $100 lock or more, so it's a real good security lock. And I do know they also make security locks that if you do cut them, they actually set off an alarm and they start buzzing. They send you an alert. So I'm going to look for padlocks like that. That's going to have some type of sensor or some type of sensoring cable on it. So if it is cut, that sets off an alarm. I'm probably going to put in a security system. So on the inside of this door, there's going to be motion sensors on each side of the door on the inside. So when you pull this door open and you break that connection, it's going to set off an alarm. Okay, so that's just another level of security that we are going to put in place to improve the security of this building overall. But guys, I'm telling you this now, document your serial numbers. Make sure you keep a ledger, okay? Somebody robs you, you want to make sure you give that to the police. Keep that in mind. You know, if you're going to be mining, you're building a mining shed, security cameras, ledger, alarm system, insurance, all those things are things that you need. So document your serial numbers. Keep a ledger, okay? That's very important. Nobody's doing it. Everybody's like, build mining rigs, build mining rigs. Nobody's documenting their hardware. Document your hardware. Encourage everybody you know, document your hardware. Keep records of it. If you sell something, document that you sold it, okay? But keep everything documented. This is keeping somebody honest. That's all this is. Once anybody who wants to break in and rob me, they're going to cut this. They're going to break in. They're going to rob me. The question is, what happens after you're robbed? Do you got security footage? Do you got a ledger? Do you got alarm systems? What type of security measures do you have in place? Think about it.